for those of you that don't know me, I'm Ninthu and I post true crime and chit chat type of videos twice a week, and I also occasionally post fashion related content as well as vlogs. So if that's the type of content you're into, make sure to hit that bell button so that you stay notified every time that I post. So today's video is going to cover the devastating case of Jun Lin, otherwise known as Justin Lin, who was an international student studying in Canada who got murdered. So without further ado, let's get straight into the video. Now, if you watch any of my other true crime videos, you know that I always talk about who the perpetrator was first. So let's get a better insight into who this murderer was and what kind of led him to doing the acts that he did. So the perpetrator's name was Eric Clinton Kirk Newman, and he was born on July 24th, 1982 in Scarborough, Ontario. So he did actually end up changing his name in 2006, and that's actually the name I'm going to call him by in this video. So that name was Luca Rocco Magnotta. Anyways, getting back on track, he was the first of 3 children born to a couple named Anna Yorkin and Donald Newman. So as far as his home life goes, it is said that his mother was obsessive with cleanliness and she would regularly lock him and his siblings out of the house for making messes. And it was also said that she would often put their pet bunnies outside in the cold to freeze to death. Now, his father, on the other hand, was diagnosed with schizophrenia in 1994. So before touching base on that, I actually want to just rewind a tiny bit to when Luca is 8 years old, and this is when they lose their home due to some debt they had accumulated, and they end up going to live at Donald's parents' house, which is Luca's grandparents. Now, as a child, even though Luca's home life was not the greatest, he would still go to school and pretty much come up with all these stories and lies about how good his home life is, and just like tell the other kids about like this picture perfect home life that he didn't actually have. Now, going back to 1994, when Luca is 12 years old, his parents decide to get a divorce. Now, his mother actually ends up moving on pretty quickly. She ends up having a new husband and 2 more kids. And it is said by Luca's biological father that he believed that his stepdad was emotionally abusive towards Luca, and so he didn't feel like this was a good environment for Luca to be in. So then because of this, Luca ends up moving in with his grandmother Phyllis, and this living situation did not seem any better than the last because Phyllis is said to have been emotionally and physically abusive towards Luca, and she is described to be domineering and controlling. So then Luca ends up attending IE Weldon Secondary School in Lindsay, Ontario, and in 2001 he is seen multiple times at a crisis center for hearing voices, and it is at this time that he is diagnosed with personality disorder, and he is prescribed to medication and also moved into a group home called Harrison Housing, which is supposed to be a home for people with mental disorders, and basically they just help and support you in any way that they can. So then in 2003, Luca is now 21 years old, and he begins to appear in gay porn and occasionally working as a stripper and escort, and also dabbling into the modeling world. So then for each of these little side hustles that Luca had going on, he had different aliases. So his escort name was Rocco, his stripper name was Luca, his porn star name was Angel, and his modeling name was Jimmy. And then in 2005, Luca actually appears in Toronto's Fab magazine as a pinup model. Now, also around this time, Luca's biological father actually notices that Luca doesn't seem to be doing very good mentally, and he's pretty concerned because he feels like Luca's mental health is declining rapidly. So he ends up suggesting that Luca start seeing his personal psychiatrist. And Luca actually takes his father's advice and actually consistently sees this psychiatrist from 2003 to 2008. Now, when Luca started seeing the psychiatrist ended up noting down that he was very paranoid, and he would talk about how the people in the Harrison house were actually like jealous of him and like out to get him, and like they want to hurt him, and how he just can't trust them. So then at this time, he's being treated for bipolar disorder. So he was basically a bipolar schizophrenic. So then he was prescribed Valium and other antipsychotics so that he can basically stay sane. Now, also around this time, he started kind of getting delusional and feeling like people were following him, kind of like paparazzi, and he would say how like they're trying to ruin his career, and basically he also started hearing voices. So there was just a lot going on in his mind at this time. So then the psychiatrist at the time noted that his demeanor had completely changed from when he began seeing him, and how he was talking a lot faster and he was delusional and just acting very odd. So then that same year, Luca ends up getting convicted for 1 count of impersonation and 3 counts of fraud, because he ends up going to a Sears and impersonating a woman and getting a credit card, and he ends up spending $10,000 worth on goods. So then he ends up pleading guilty, and he spends 16 days in jail and is on a 9-month conditional sentence and 12 months of probation. So then after this happens, on August 12th, 2006 is when he legally changes his name to Luca Rocco Magnotta. And then in March of 2007, he ends up filing for bankruptcy because he owed $17,000 in debts that he had somehow accumulated. And then the bankruptcy is fully discharged in December of 2007. So then Luca ends up going and getting a bunch of cosmetic surgery done so that he can look like his model James Dean. And also in 2007, Luca is an unsuccessful competitor in Out TV's reality series called Cover Guy, which I believe he only made it to 2 episodes, but I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was 2 episodes. And then he also auditions for Slice Network's television show called Plastic Makes Perfect in 2008. So then because of this, he did end up gaining a bit of publicity, but not enough for him to be satisfied. So what he ends up doing is creating a bunch of fake profiles and stuff on social media networks and discussion forums, and he's basically just planting rumors about him throughout the years so that he can get more publicity, because he felt like any type of publicity was good publicity, which isn't the case, but you know, that's just his mindset at the time. So then one of these claims actually emerged in 2007, and basically the claim was that Luca Magnotta was in a relationship with Karla Homolka, which is a convicted murderer that we literally discussed 2 videos ago in the Ken and Barbie like murders. So that was a rumor, but he ended up saying that these claims were false in an interview with the Toronto Sun. Now I just want to fast forward for 1 second. So basically in 2012, during the murder investigation of Jun Lin, Montreal police actually end up coming forward and saying that Luca Magnotta and Karla Homolka had been in a relationship, but then they end up retracting the statement and acknowledge that they had 0 evidence to really even like corroborate the theory. So yeah, I don't know why they came out and said it, but they did, and then they retracted it. Anyways, like this rumored relationship, Luca ends up going on to deny a bunch of the claims that he himself had planted on the internet. And basically he says that it was a campaign of cyber stalking against him. And let me just add that like police ended up stating that Luca actually set up 70 Facebook pages and 20 like different websites under different names. So this man was dedicated to coming up with these rumors and getting the publicity he wanted. So then in 2010, a series of videos are posted on YouTube of animal cruelty in regards to cats, and basically it depicts 2 kittens being suffocated and sucked into a vacuum until their death by a man. And the video was titled "One Boy, 2 Kittens," and allegedly the person behind the video was none other than Luca Rocco Magnotta. Okay, so Jun Lin, otherwise known as Justin Lin, was born in December 30th, 1978 in Wuhan, China, and he had decided to pursue his education in Canada with hopes of having a better future for himself and his family. So he was an international student who was in the Computer Science and Engineering faculty of Concordia University, and he also worked part-time as a convenience store clerk in Point St. Charles. I really wanted to say it in French, but I'm gonna butcher it so bad, so that area. And he had been studying in Montreal since 2011, previously attending Tyrrell College, which was a language school. And between balancing work and school, he was also taking French classes on the side. So Jun Lin was described as a fitness buff who didn't do any drugs, no alcohol, didn't smoke, his friends said that he would usually go to the gym at least like 4 times a week, and he was just very into like working out and like his own fitness. And they described him as positive, genuine, reliable, hardworking, reserved, shy, and he was also gay but not very openly. And I think that was also a reason why he wanted to study in Canada, because he felt Canada was more liberal and a much more accepting place than China at the time. So then on May 1st, 2012, Jun Lin ends up moving into a Griffintown area apartment with his roommate. And on May 24th, 2012 is when he was last seen, and his friends actually said that they had received a text message from him at 9 p.m. that day. So that was basically the last time they ever heard from him. And at the time, his boss at work had also become suspicious because he didn't show up to his shift the next day, which was not like Jun Lin at all. So then on May 27th, 2012, 3 of his friends actually end up going to his apartment looking for him. And then on May 29th is actually when they end up reporting him missing to the police. So then on May 25th, 2012, an 11-minute video called One Lunatic, One Ice Pick is basically posted online on this website called bestgore.com, and it basically depicts a man tied up and being stabbed multiple times by what appears to be an ice pick and a kitchen knife. And then in the video it shows the man getting dismembered and acts of necrophilia as well. So the perpetrator in the video actually also takes a kitchen knife with a fork and cuts off pieces of the body and lets a dog chew on the body. And also during the video, a song is playing in the background, and it is a 1987 New Order song called True Faith. And a poster for the 1942 film Casablanca is also visible on the wall. So then the Canadian authorities are actually able to get a more extensive version of the video, and they confirm that cannibalism did take place, and materials promoting the video had actually been posted online for at least 10 days prior to the actual murder itself. So then on May 26, 2012, an attorney from Montana actually ends up reporting the video to the Toronto police, his local sheriff, and the FBI, but for some reason his report ends up being dismissed. So in addition, some of the Best Gore website viewers actually end up reporting the video also, but then it wasn't until later on that the police end up confirming that the video is authentic and that the victim is an Asian male, because at this point, some of Jun Lin's body parts are actually sent to Ottawa. So then at 11 a.m. on May 29th, 2012, a package containing a left foot is sent to the national headquarters of the Conservative Party of Canada. And the package was also basically stained in blood and smelled foul, which you'd probably guess because there's a decomposing foot in there. But it was also marked with a red heart symbol. And then another package containing a left hand was intercepted at a Canada Post processing facility, and it was labeled for the Liberal Party. And guys, it doesn't end there, because a janitor ends up finding a decomposing torso that was left in a suitcase in a pile of garbage behind an alleyway of an apartment in Snowdon area of Montreal. And the janitor had actually first noticed the suitcase on the 25th, but it hadn't been picked up because the garbage pile was so large at the time. So then police end up searching the scene, and they end up finding human remains, bloody clothes, papers identifying the suspect, and they also found blunt and sharp objects nearby as well. So then they end up checking the surveillance cameras from inside the apartment, and they find a suspect that brings a bunch of like garbage bags and stuff to the garbage pile, and this suspect actually matches a suspect that they had seen on the surveillance camera at one of the post offices in Côte des Neiges. I hope I said that right. So then at 11:33 p.m, police end up searching the apartment that Luca Magnotta had been renting on Descaries Boulevard. But Luca had actually moved 4 months prior to this, but his rent was paid up until June 1st. So then when they go into the apartment, they notice that it had been mostly emptied, but it hadn't been cleaned. So then they find blood on different materials in the apartment, including the mattress, the refrigerator, the bathtub, and a table. And on the inside of one of the closets, there was writing in red ink which said, "If you do not like the reflection, don't look in the mirror. I don't care." So then on May 30th, 2012, it was confirmed that the body parts had actually been from the same individual, which was later confirmed to be Jun Lin. And the suspect in the case had actually quickly been identified as Luca Magnotta, who at the time had fled the country already. So then a note was found in the package that was sent to the Conservative Party, which stated that the perpetrator would kill again and that a total of 6 body parts are to be found and has been sent out. And there were also notes included in the other 3 packages. However, police never disclosed of what these notes said because they were concerned that there would be copycats. So then on June 5th, 2012, a package containing a right foot is delivered to St. George's School, and a package containing a right hand is delivered to False Creek Elementary School in Vancouver. And both schools end up opening like normal the next day, and it is also said that both packages were confirmed to have been from Montreal. So then on June 13th, 2012, the 4 limbs along with the torso is identified as Jun Lin using his DNA that his family had given. And on July 1st, 2012, Jun Lin's head is actually found near a lake in one of Montreal's parks, and police end up finding this because of an anonymous tip, which I'm pretty sure was Luca. So then Jun Lin's body ends up being cremated on July 11th, 2012, and his ashes are buried in July 26th at Notre-Dame-des-Neiges Cemetery in Montreal. So then an arrest warrant for Luca is put out by the Service de Police de la Ville de Montréal, and it is later upgraded to a Canada-wide warrant by the RCMP, accusing him of the following crimes: first-degree murder, committing an indignity to a dead body, publishing obscene materials, mailing obscene, indecent, scurrilous, and immoral materials, and criminally harassing Canadian Prime Minister at the time, Stephen Harper, along with other members of the parliament. So then on May 31st, 2012, Interpol actually puts out a red notice for Luca as requested by the Canadian authorities. And for several days before and after his arrest, Luca Magnotta's name and photo are actually prominently displayed on the top of the homepage of the Interpol website. So the red notice had actually requested that Luca be provisionally arrested until he can get extradition back to Canada by any Interpol member. So then also around this time, they figured out that Luca Magnotta had actually flown from Montreal to Paris on May 26th, and he flew there with a fake passport under the name of Kirk Trammell. So his cell phone signal was actually traced to a hotel in Bagnolet, but by the time police arrived, he had already left. However, when they did arrive, they did find pornographic magazines along with air sickness bags in the hotel room. So because he had been to Paris before in 2010, he did have connections. So police were following a large framed man who had been in contact with Luca Magnotta. And there was another man that Luca had stayed with for 2 nights, but the man did not know who he was at the time. So then Luca ends up boarding a Eurolines bus at Bagnolet coach station, which is supposed to go to Berlin, Germany. And then on June 4th, 2012, Magnotta is actually apprehended at an internet cafe in the New Cologne district, basically just searching himself up and reading stories on himself because he was so self-centered. And obviously, Luca loves to give fake names, so he gave fake names until he finally admitted to who he actually was. And then his identity was confirmed through fingerprint evidence, and then he ends up appearing in the Berlin court on June 5th, 2012. And according to German officials, Luca actually didn't oppose to his extradition, and there was sufficient evidence against him to keep him in custody until the extradition, and he actually agreed to a simplified process. And then on June 18th, 2012, Luca is presented to the Canadian authority in Berlin, and they actually fly him back to Canada to the Mirabel Airport, which is north of Montreal. So a military transfer was actually required at this time because it would have caused safety concerns if Luca was on a commercial flight. and it would have also caused legal troubles in regards to if the plane was diverted to another country. So then Luca ends up being placed in solitary confinement in Rivière des Prairies detention center. So then at this time, the reactions in China were very critical, and they felt like this murder had actually been racially motivated. And some Chinese even questioned the public safety in Canada because this had been the second murder of a Chinese student in slightly over a year. So then the foreign affairs minister, Jean Baird, ends up calling a Chinese ambassador, Zhang Junse, to convey his condolences. And then on June 4th, 2012, Prime Minister at the time, Stephen Harper, ends up saying that he is pleased to announce that the suspect had been arrested, and he goes on to congratulate the police forces for their good work in apprehending Luca. And then Liberal Party leader Bob Rae ends up saying that we should mourn the victim in any sort of way instead of celebrating Luca's notoriety. And just 2 days later, Jun Lin's family ends up arriving to Canada at Trudeau's airport in Montreal. And the Chinese Students and Scholars Association of Concordia University end up setting up a fund to defray Jun Lin's family of the expenses of his schooling in his time in Canada. And they also create an award in his honor. So then a candlelight vigil is held in Montreal, and Luca was actually named the Canadian Newsmaker of the Year by the media, which obviously caused a lot of controversy at the time. So then on June 19th, Luca ends up appearing in court through a video link to plead not guilty through his lawyer. And then on June 21st, Luca ends up appearing in person in a high security courtroom in Montreal, basically requesting a trial with jurors. So then the preliminary hearing begins on March 11th, 2013, and the evidence provided was actually subject to a publication ban. And then Luca's defense team actually requested that the public and the media be barred from his trial, but that was ultimately declined the next day. So Jun Lin's father, Jun Lin, actually flew in from China to attend the hearing. And then on March 13th, one of Luca's lawyers actually ended up resigning due to a possible conflict of interest. So then a bunch of expert witnesses actually testified. I'm going to read off my laptop who they were because I'm going to forget. But basically these witnesses included forensic pathologist, a forensic toxicologist, a forensic odontologist, a bloodstain analyst, a data recovery specialist, and an internet investigations officer. And the prosecution also showed video evidence of Luca's crimes. So it is said that both Luca and Jun Lin collapsed at separate times during the hearing. And then on April 12th, 2013, Luca Magnotta was indicted of charges of first-degree murder, offering indignities to a human body, disturbing obscene materials, using the postal service to distribute obscene materials, and for criminal harassment. So following the committal for trial, the preliminary inquiry judge had actually set his trial date to fall of 2014, and Luca actually elected to be tried by a judge and jury, and he pleaded not guilty. He basically admitted to committing these acts, but he claimed that he couldn't take responsibility because of his mental disorders. So then 6 tools, including a pair of scissors, 2 knives, an oscillating saw, a hammer, and a screwdriver were recovered from outside of Luca's apartment, and each of these tools were analyzed by a ballistics expert, Gilbert Desjardins. However, he said that they could not be definitively linked to the case because there was no skeletal marks on either the screwdriver or the scissors, but some were consistent with the saw and the knife or the X-Acto blade injuries. And during the trial, defense attorney Luc Leclerc said that Luca cannot be held responsible because he was in a psychotic state of mind during the time of the crime. However, the Crown prosecutor actually argued that the murder of Jun Lin was organized and premeditated, and he stated that Luca was purposeful, mindful, ultra organized, and ultimately responsible for his actions. And then Luca actually ends up telling his psychiatrist that during the night that he murdered Jun Lin, it was actually someone named Manny that was urging him to kill him, basically like fronting like he was hearing these voices and like he was in a psychotic state of mind, you know. However, it was later determined that this name Manny, along with Luca's alias Trammell, was actually inspired by Sharon Stone's fictional character Catherine Trammell in the movie Basic Interest, and that character's fiance Manny Vasquez. And let me just add that during his entire trial, Luca had decided not to testify. Okay, so also during his trial, there was so many like mental health disorders and stuff that was brought in by both the defense and prosecutors. So I'm just going to read that straight off the computer for you because I'm going to mess it up otherwise, because there was so many names and so many overlapping like claims and stuff like that. But basically, the defense witnesses provided evidence that Luca Magnotta had been diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia as a teenager. Defense expert Dr. Joel Watts testified that Magnotta showed signs of episodic schizophrenia, histrionic personality disorder, borderline personality traits, and paraphilia not otherwise specified. The prosecution revealed that Magnotta had been using illegal drugs during his teenage years, which led to symptoms that mimicked schizophrenia, and that Magnotta had been diagnosed with borderline personality disorder by Crown expert Dr. Joel Paris at Jewish General Hospital in Montreal in April 2012. Dr. Renee Roy, the forensic psychiatrist who treated Magnotta at Rivière des Prairies Detention Center since November 2012 through his preliminary hearing and right up to the murder trial, diagnosed Magnotta with borderline personality disorder with histrionic features. Dr. Gilles Chamberlain, another Crown expert who was not able to interview Magnotta, suggested that Magnotta showed signs of antisocial, histrionic, and narcissistic personality disorders. A number of psychiatrists over the years noted that Magnotta displayed evidence of antisocial, borderline, histrionic, and narcissistic traits. The prosecution accused Magnotta of pretending to be schizophrenic since his defense pleaded diminished responsibility due to alleged schizophrenia. So then after a 12-week trial, which had 10 weeks of just hearing testimonies, the jurors, which was basically 8 women and 4 men, were told to deliberate by the judge on December 15th, 2014. After deliberating for 8 days, the jurors ended up coming up with a verdict of guilty on all charges. So then Luca Rocco Magnotta is basically sentenced to life in prison, and he is eligible for parole in 25 years. However, he is also charged with another 19 years because he has to serve some other charges concurrently with this murder charge. So before ending off the video, I just want to rewind a tiny bit to July 16th, 2013, because this is when Edmonton police end up charging the owner of the Best Gore website, Mark Merek, with corrupting morals, a rarely used obscenity charge for posting the One Lunatic, One Ice Pick video publicly. And then on January 25th, 2016, Merek ends up changing his plea to guilty, and he is sentenced with a 6-month conditional sentence after a joint submission between the Crown and the defense. And basically he just needs to spend 6 months in house arrest. So that concludes today's video. What do you guys think about the case? I am honestly so appalled to even think that this man had the audacity to send body parts to schools. Like, where does one even come up with the thought of doing that, you know? But yeah, let me know what you guys think about today's case, and like the video if you liked it, comment if you want, and subscribe if you want, and like always, keep shining.